You'll find churches that have female pastors, where in the Bible it states that a woman should learn in quiet subjection. A woman should not be the leader of men.
And the bishop should be the husband of one man. Or I'm sorry, the bishop should be. The bishop should be.
It does not.
Yeah, I'm sorry. The bishop should be the husband of one wife. I'm sorry. The bishop should be the husband of one wife. And the church you're referring to, there's one in Los Angeles. It's at the intersection of Fuller and Highland. You're right. It's just a huge LBGT flag.
And Fresh is going to be a pastor, so he could definitely.
That's crazy. By the way,
Are you really studying?
Yeah,
he was going to be.
I was going to be.
Okay.
Canada.
Yeah. So Christianity is extraordinarily lost, as is the identity of the American, because we forget that this country was started by religious zealots, right? Dude on the Quaker box, Puritans, these kinds of folks. So we're very lost from an identity standpoint. Christianity is lost as well. Then when you go beyond that, I'd like to assert that the man who is succumbing to marriage is probably one of the weakest men in the society. I'd actually turn up things a degree higher and state that men who are truly traditional, today you actually have to do things that historically would not be viewed as traditional. Whereas previously you get into the marriage contract, this woman is now essentially your property. She's subject to you and to your domination. Now when the marriage occurs, you're subject to the government's domination. So it is the weak male who submits to marriage, for marriage is beneficial to the female. Why? Because it locks you into a long-term contract, like Scottie Pippen, right? You get in that long-term bad contract, and what happens is that over time, the female's declining rapidly in value, menopause, things like this, right?
Biological fact.
Right?
Yeah.
And here's the worst part about it. Are you getting the things you really wanted when you were going into the marriage? All of the things every male actually wanted: sexual variety, peace of mind, sex on demand.
No.
She's getting all of the things she sought: commitment, financial support, even if you're not in the relationship after the marriage. So the marriage is a horrible deal for men. In fact, I would suggest that today it only makes sense when you're about to procreate, and I still wouldn't do it legally. And the only reason I'm doing it when I'm about to procreate is so that we're not mixing paternal blood, because that's a filthy thing.
Wow, well said.
Let me tag something else. I think we talked about this in our debate. That was awesome. Yeah, boy, we really destroyed me. Each other. I think we mutually assured destruction.
He's going to clickbait. I'll tell you that.
Yeah, it was good. That was fucking good.
The niggas just chopping it up, man.
No, we were talking about this, and one of the things I mentioned, I couldn't remember it at the time, but I do now. It's coverture laws. And when I was writing Religion, my fourth book, in the very thick part of the chapter about marriage in there, I'd mentioned coverture laws. There is this misnomer, or this misinformation. We're kings of misinformation, right? There's this misinformation that like women were considered like property up to a point, right? Or they couldn't own businesses, or they couldn't have their own money. They were basically that at the the beck and call, and like basically just house slaves of their husbands. And the fact of the matter is as far back as like the mid 1700s up in through the 1800s, there were what were called coverture laws. And what coverture laws were was a woman who was not married could own money, could own land, could own business, could inherit it from her family. Like if she had this as part of her inheritance because her father had started the business and now she takes over it, as long as she wasn't married. So when she got married, all of that went over to the husband, not because it was some sort of tyrannical thing. It's because of what you just said. The husband was responsible in every aspect for the children and for the wife. So what that meant was, the reason why they had coverture laws is because if that woman had land or she had that business and she was married and she ran that business into the ground, or she killed somebody, or their children ended up being criminals or whatever, it was the husband and the father who was responsible for all of that. That's why today when we see some kid that goes in commits suicide or has a drug problem or is in some way criminality or something like that, we don't go, where's the mother? We go, where's the father? Because we're still thinking, well, who's the authority? Well, that's because coverture laws back at the time, it meant that women could still do that as long as they remained unmarried. So it was on her if the business failed. It was on her if the land was not used in a way that she would have liked to have been used, right? So the thing is back then, for women, if they wanted more agency, if they wanted more power, they could remain unmarried and have all of that. The thing is now today, we have coverture laws, but they're for men. You have more maneuverability and more power outside of marriage in the same effect than you do inside of marriage, because what happens is all of the, responsibility for still, maintaining the family and everything, that's all still there. But if there's a divorce in there, then she's going to be entitled to half of that or whatever the assets are. And we've talked about this with James Sexton. I really wish we could have got James Sexton for this panel, but essentially the coverture laws have been reversed in the 21st century, meaning that men have more maneuverability outside of marriage than they do inside of marriage.
And I'll say this too, real quick. Last time I was on here, if you guys remember, I think it was the matchmaker from LA. I asked her,
Nelly.
Name one benefit that men get in a relationship that they don't get outside of the relationship. She couldn't name anything. And that's the question I ask every girl when they say, "Oh, well, I want to get married," blah blah blah. Then I ask, "Well, what benefit does a man get in a marriage that he wouldn't get in a regular relationship?" And the answer is nothing. And it's funny because actually, this is public. The game actually took that clip and put it on his Instagram. And because I think it's getting out there now. People, like a lot of people don't admit it. A lot of these celebrities and stuff like that, they watch our content, man. Shaq talked about how you should never open up to a woman vulnerability-wise.
Right.
Like, these guys are watching this content. These guys have been destroyed by the divorce machine
They
at
use
the
some
highest
language
level.
we've used before. You go,
If you guys want to check out something, I'm sure
it's getting out there. Is my point.
The two of you look at this.
Great.
Look on Instagram at your shares, and also on YouTube, your shares versus your likes. I'm starting to get more shares than I do likes crazy. Now.
That's a good sign.
It was actually Dan Fleischman was explaining this to me. He was like, these people don't want their coworkers to know they like your content.
Yeah.
So that is something that, so if you guys look at the ratio, usually if you see some girl in a bikini competition, she's going to get 100,000 likes and maybe, 5,000 shares. If you're getting 50,000 shares and 10,000 likes, that means these people like your content. They're sending it to their coworkers.
They like it for real.
But they don't want people to know that they like it. And like you said before,
I was shocked when I saw someone sent this to me. I saw LA Company. I was like, holy fuck. Like, I mean, it's public, so I say it, but I'm like, damn. Like, he put that out there, so I'm like, okay, this is great. This information is getting out there to a broader audience so guys understand, wait, you're telling me I don't have to get married? You're telling me I don't have to put myself in that situation?
There's so many celebrities that actually watch our content, bro. Like, I've met them in person. They're like, bro, I love your shit. Famous NBA players, athletes. It's like, bro, this is amazing. But I can't be seen with you guys because
it's so true.
Right.
People are such cowards.
One of the Golden Knights,
like a tweet and shit.
One of the Golden Knights came up to me at an event I just threw the other day, and he's like, "Dude, I love your content. My wife doesn't like it."
And I'm sure all of us have been told by a celeb. The only reason I even mentioned the game is because he put it on his Instagram publicly, like for everybody to see. I was like, oh, that's fucking lit. So he wants other guys to understand, like, because it's pretty important. Young guys don't know.
Most famous women understand women too, because they've been around, they've seen it. Because from not being famous and rich to all of a sudden becoming famous and rich, you see how differently you're treated. Luckily, I learned women before I had money and stuff, but you still see you're treated much differently. And a lot of guys, they don't understand this.
So let's talk about. You made a great point before. Is like we don't want to bash people for being Christian. That's definitely not what we want to do. But there's a difference between discernment and judgment, right? So what it says in the Bible, it says, "He who sticks his hand to the plow while looking back is not fit for the kingdom of God." It's telling you need to use logic and you get experience. Remember, I was once young and now I'm old and I've never seen the righteous forsaken. It says this in the Bible. You can still use experience. You can still know these things. Steven Crowder is a smart guy. He knows a lot of things, but I guarantee you I know more about female nature than Steven Crowder because he married the first woman he put his penis in. And that's the problem. That's what happened. And so regardless of what happened here, he trusted in something. He trusted in a God that's telling him, you should be wise. Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yeah.
This idea that I'm just going to leave it all up to them, that's ignorance. There's nothing in the Bible where it says for you to be helpless. No, you should have wisdom. And King Solomon prays for wisdom. Yeah. And so why can't we have wisdom when it comes to these things? And what you're not promoting is hedonism. You're promoting discernment. You're promoting experience. The experience you're promoting. Now I have some clients who are religious and I tell them, if you don't want to have sex with all these women, it's fine, but you need to have experience, like going on dates and getting to know this is the action. We talk about the difference between this is attention you're getting from a woman. This is compliance you're getting from a woman. You think you're getting compliance, you're actually getting attention. When fellas out there, when a woman sends you nudes, that's not compliance, that's attention. She sent those nudes out to 34 other dudes. Those are just her thumbs. When she shows up at your place, that's compliance. That's why you don't leave comments, heart eye emojis on her stuff. You're giving her attention. in return for nothing. I'll give her compliments when she comes to my apartment. When she makes me dinner. Then I'll give her compliments because she's given me compliance, not attention. And that discernment is what a lot of these men don't understand. And so we end up in a situation where the church is, you're going to go to the Wednesday youth group, right? The young adults group. And the young adults group is going to be the guys who stayed, and they stayed a virgin, because it's much easier for a guy to stay a virgin than a woman. He stayed a virgin. He followed the Lord. And then this other woman, she